This is the Chassidic Story Project with Barak Hullman, podcasting from Jerusalem, Israel. This podcast is sponsored by listeners just like you. To become a supporter of this podcast, please go to HasidicStory.com, HASIDIC story.com. You'll never know, you'll never know, you'll never know, you'll never know. Everybody knows that during World War II, during the Holocaust, the last group of Jews to end up suffering in the concentration camps were the Jews of Hungary. And amongst those Jews that were rounded up and brought to the concentration camp of Bergen-Belsen was a Chassid and Torah scholar by the name of Shmuel Shmelki Schnitzler. One of the things that stood out about Reb Shmelki was that he was very tall and had warm and penetrating eyes. And even though everyone around him was depressed, and how could you not be, being in such a place like Bergen-Belsen, being a Chassid, and having complete emunah in the Kadosh Baruch Hu, Reb Shmelki was able to maintain a mood of being sincerely happy, even in a place like Bergen-Belsen. And he would go around and encourage his fellow Jews not to give up. He would say, a Jew in despair, they don't belong together. They're like oil and water. There's no way that a Jew can despair. Whenever possible, he would organize a minyan, especially on Shabbos. And at night, he would tell Chassidic stories and gather people around him and transport them away from the hell of this concentration camp. Because he was able to remain in such a good mood, despite the crazy circumstances, Reb Shmelki even became friendly with some of the cruelest guards in the camp. And through these connections, he was able to help some of his fellow Jews. He was given the job, which some might seem like a terrible job, to remove people who had passed away overnight. But he saw it as a great mitzvah, because everybody knows that burying the dead is one of the greatest mitzvahs a Jew can do. It's called Chesed Shel Emet, which means true kindness, because once a person has passed away, they can't pay you back for doing them the favor of burying them. And so despite the circumstances, Reb Shmelki was honored to have the job of taking care of the bodies of Jews who had passed away in the camp. And one day he was called for an emergency pickup of somebody who had died, and he was running through the camp, and his foot sank into a hole in the ground. Now the whole time, Reb Shmelki was thinking to himself, Chanukah is coming, and how could I possibly have Chanukah without lighting a Chanukiah? But here in a place like a concentration camp, not only is there nothing that could be flammable because people would use it to try to escape or harm the Nazis, but finding something like that, no one could even imagine such a thing. But Reb Shmelki, he constantly asked Hashem to help him. He said, Hashem, I will never despair, no matter what. And I know you can do miracles. One day, B'ezrat Hashem, you're going to take us all out of here. But if it's not today, Hashem, help me to figure out how I'm going to light the lights for Chanukah. And so he looked down into this hole, which his foot was stuck into. It was red mud. He pulls his foot out, and he sticks his hand inside. It was clear that this isn't a normal hole. Somebody had dug this hole and covered it up for a reason. And when he puts his hand deeper in, he feels there's something solid in the mud. And he pulls it out, and he sees it's a small jar with oil. He sticks his finger into it very gently, and he sees that it is oil. He couldn't believe it. He remembered the miracle of Chanukah and how the Maccabees discovered the oil that had been left from the time of the Beit HaMikdash. And here he was discovering a jar of oil in Bergen-Belsen of all places. It was a Chanukah miracle. So now he's thinking to himself, okay, what am I going to light the oil with? He says, maybe there's something else, and he sticks his hand in the hole. He digs around in the dirt, and he finds the most miraculous thing, 8 little cups and 8 thin strands of cotton. Along with it were a few matches as well. This was the craziest thing to find in a place like Bergen-Belsen. He put everything back into the hole and covered it up, just like when he had found it. But now, Reb Shmelki was a little concerned, because there were a lot of people in the camp, and it could be that he discovered the Chanukiah of someone else. So as he was working his rounds around the camp, he started asking people, maybe somebody had hid some oil in a hiding place, and people looked at him like he was out of his mind. Oil in a place like this? Are you joking? But now it was the night of Chanukah, and Reb Shmelki went in the dark of the night to the hole. He dug out the oil, the glass cups, the matches, and the wicks, and he came back and he told everyone in his barracks, Hashem has done a Chanukah miracle for us, and we're going to light right now. But then somebody said, but what if the Nazis come? They'll kill us all. And Reb Shmelki said, don't you understand, my friends? This is a miracle direct from God. We have nothing to fear. Just like I had the faith that Hashem wouldn't abandon me and would provide us with a Chanukiah, we all have to have the faith that we can light this Chanukiah and nothing bad will happen to us. So everybody gathered around, and Reb Shmelki said the brachas out loud. Baruch atah Hashem, Elokeinu melech haolam, she'asa nisim lavoteinu, bayamim ha'em, bizman hazeh. Out loud. Where did he find the chutzpah to do this? But nothing happened. No one showed up at the barracks. He lit the first light of Chanukah, and everyone stood around crying, watching the little flame flicker, burning the oil. It only lasted for a few minutes because there wasn't a lot of oil, and the wicks were very small. But everyone felt like there might be some light in all this darkness. And the next night, everyone got together again, and Reb Shmelki said, we have nothing to fear. And he said the brachas out loud again, and lit 2 lights. And every night, he lit the Chanukiah. And for all 8 nights, no one came and disturbed them. They were able to sit there and watch the light burn bright against the darkness of the concentration camp. A few months later, the war ended in April 1945. And Reb Shmelki survived the war. He moved back to Hungary, where he served as a rabbi for other survivors and became known as the Tacheberav. Several years later, he made a trip to the United States. And when he was there, he went to meet the Satmar Rebbe, Rabbi Yoel Teitelbaum, who was living in Brooklyn. Now, one of the reasons the Reb Shmelki went to visit the Satmar Rebbe is because the Satmar Rebbe, who was also from Hungary, had also been in Bergen-Belsen. But in the winter of 1944, there was a miraculous escape where many Jews were able to get out of Bergen-Belsen, and one of the Jews that escaped was the Satmar Rebbe. So Reb Shmelki understood that meeting the Satmar Rebbe was not just meeting a great Rebbe, but also meeting somebody who had been in the same place as him. And they had a little conversation, and then the Rebbe said to Reb Shmelki, I heard that you had the great schus, the great honor of lighting the Chanukah candles in Bergen-Belsen. And Reb Shmelki was really taken aback. He said, how does the Rebbe know this? And the Rebbe said, the Rebbe knows many things, and gave Reb Shmelki a smile. A few minutes later, the Rebbe bent over and whispered into Reb Shmelki's ear. He said, Reb Shmelki, I'm the one who hid the oil. The cups and those wicks and the oil that you found by the fence, I hid them there. Before I found out about the rescue plan, I asked somebody to help me get together some oil cups and wicks, and I buried them in the field. One of the things that I regretted when I left the camp was I didn't know if anyone would ever find them. And then the Rebbe said to Reb Shmelki, but after I left, I realized that Hashem would make sure that the right person would find the oil and the wicks and the glass and use it to bring light to our fellow prisoners. So Reb Shmelki, it's my greatest honor to be in your presence and know that you're the one who Hashem chose to light my Chanukiah.